Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Mo Nawara in the Midwest. We've got a plenty full slate here on a Friday night for you guys. No day games, so we have plenty to choose from. We do have some best bets we are going to bring you here. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we are bringing you these videos each and every weekday of this regular season. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Got plenty of great written content coming for you guys all summer long and into the fall, obviously. Also have our great odds checker tool on there. Make sure you are headed to thelines.com to shop all of those bets, the best that you can tonight. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to FDPicks.com or DKPicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as the full slate we have here, kicking off with the Mets in Miami. Sandy Alcantara on the mound for the Fish, taking on Chris Bassett and the Mets. Minus 120 for the Mets on that one. The Royals and Chris Bubich are taking on Garrett Cole and the Yanks in New York, minus 380, huge favorites for the Yankees, playing against what's known as sometimes their farm team in the Royals. The Cardinals and Miles Mikolas are taking on the Nats and Anibal Sanchez in Washington, minus 170 there. I think we are going to talk about that game. Bailey Falter and the Phils are in Pittsburgh, taking on Jose Quintana, minus 125 for the Phils there on the money line. Brian Garcia and the Tigers taking on Alek Manoah and the Blue Jays, minus 365, huge favorites for the Jays on the money line. Brandon Woodruff and the Brewers are in Boston, taking on Brayan Bello, minus 165 for the Brew Crew on the road there. The Guardians and Shane Bieber, minus 105 in Tampa, where Jeffrey Springs is actually slightly favored, minus 115 for the Rays in Tampa. Madison Bumgarner and the D-backs are in Atlanta, taking on Kyle Wright, minus 210, huge favorites for the Bravos. Robbie Ray and the Mariners in Houston, taking on Justin Verlander, minus 180 for Verlander and the Astros in Houston. The Oakland Athletics, James Kaprielian and the Chicago White Sox, Lance Lynn, minus 195 for the Chi Sox there. The Doyers and Julio Urias are taking on Chad Kuhl in Colorado, plus 195 for the Rockies on the money line there, a game we are going to talk about. Our boy Goat Martin Perez, the Rangers are in LA, taking on the Angels, and Patrick Sandoval, minus 105 for the Rangers on the money line there, that we are going to talk about as well. And the last two games we have here, the Twins and Joe Ryan in San Diego, taking on Blake Snell, minus 125 for the Pods at home. And the last game there, Chicago Cubs, Marcus Stroman on the mound, plus 125 in San Francisco, taking on Alex Cobb and the Giants, who are minus 145 there. So, as we say, a full slate here tonight, Mo, but I think we are going to start with that Rockies game that we talked about. Chad Kuhl, very good at home, despite the fact that he is taking on a solid squad there and a solid pitcher on the other side of the mound there. But what do you like about the Rockies at home in this one tonight, Mo?
Well, I like that the Rockies are at home. We know this is the best home field in baseball, and furthermore, we know that Chad Kuhl has been tremendous at home this year. I don't know how sticky this is or how much merit to give it, but I do tend to give a little more weight to something in Coors when you're looking at splits like this, because it's such a different environment. He has a 297 WOBA allowed at home this year, which is amazing. That's really good normally. So when you have a 297 WOBA allowed in Coors, that's probably closer to a 250 WOBA or something, yes. 270 in a vacuum. Even his FIP, less impressive, but 4.08 FIP. That's still, by Coors standards, really, really strong. And on the road, he's got a 369 WOBA. So that just shows you how big his split is. He has not been a good pitcher in his career generally, but seems to have found something in Coors. And then on the other side, Luis Urias, I'm not usually looking at Coors splits for non-Rockies pitchers, but sometimes I'll check it out for guys who have been in the division for a while. Urias, I checked his. He has 11 starts in Coors, has not been good there at all, 5.81 ERA. And I think there's something to that when I'm looking at his pitch mix, especially. So he throws his most thrown secondary is a curveball, 35% there, and the Rockies have the best performance against curveballs in baseball this year, and I don't think that's a fluke at all, because the way all this ties together is, once again, going back to home stadium, Coors. We know that the thin air moves the baseballs differently, and the pitches that are most affected are breaking pitches. So a guy like Urias, who relies a lot on a breaking pitch, and for the Rockies to hit that well, this all makes sense to me. So I think there's some signal in this. I don't know how much signal there is, but I do think there's something to it. We know the Rockies have hit left-handers better all season. It's been tailing off a little bit recently. They're down to 106 WRC plus, well outside of like the top 5 now. They're closer to like the middle of the pack now, but still a lot stronger than they've hit against right-handed pitchers. And yeah, I just in general, man, huge favorites in Coors is a tough look because there's so much randomness brought on by the environment there. So just a lot of things that point me to the Rockies in this one. And I was pretty surprised when I saw how big of favorites the Dodgers are. Yeah, I had them quite a bit lower than this. So for me, big value on the Rockies, but yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and always you look at the total, see if it's something below 11 or 12, and if it's something that you can bet in this type of game. 11.5 is where it sits. I would love to take the over with the way that the Dodgers have also been hitting a bit lately, but don't necessarily feel too comfortable with that one at that total there. So let's move on to another game here, Mo, where we've got the Rangers taking on the Angels in Anaheim. As we said, the Angels are entering this game here, still sort of stumbling into this. They did sort of take advantage of playing the Royals, which is not something that we're really going to use here to base what we do. I don't think. I do feel really good about betting against a team with that bullpen, with Martin Perez on the mound playing against them. And obviously, as long as Shohei Ohtani is not on the mound, I think we feel pretty good about betting against the Angels once again, who might be trading away their entire roster before long here. I know there's been some talk about even Ohtani being, and really nobody being off limits anymore at this point. So anyway, tell me what you think about this Rangers game and why it's a good time to take the Texas -105 in this one.
Yeah, this is a matchup of a couple of lefties here that have some sneaky aspects to them. We've talked about Martin Perez a bunch this year. He's made us quite a few units. On the other side, though, Patrick Sandoval is actually not a guy I'm excited to fade. I've always kind of been interested in Sandoval because of his tremendous changeup. He's having a little bit of a tough season, though. I'm still not excited to fade him, though, even though some of his peripherals aren't very good. 4.54 xERA, and man, way too many walks, 4.18 walks per 9. But he's made a change, I think, about a week, 2 weeks ago. He switched his primary fastball from his four-seamer to his sinker, and the sinker has been quite a bit better. It's actually been his best pitch this year, but sample size isn't that big yet. I think better things are coming for him, but it's the biggest thing for me is when I just look at this Angels lineup, just how injury ravaged and what they have left. It's pretty stunning. It's like not quite Marlins bad, but it's not too far from it. They're 73 WRC plus for the past 2 weeks, which is like not super arbitrary because that's when Mike Trout went out roughly. So without Trout, I mean, the players they got left, Joe Adell, Phil Gosselin, David Fletcher, Brendan Marsh, Luis Rengifo. I mean, that's 5 batters who are just like not MLB quality starters, and that doesn't even get into their catcher situation, which we know generally catchers are going to be really bad hitters. So there's like 6 just awful hitters basically in the lineup. More than half of the lineup is just, to me, not even major league caliber starters. I mean, you could see it yesterday. I don't think there's a clear indication that your lineup is completely in the toilet than when Spencer Howard blanks you. And even when healthy, this lineup hasn't hit well against lefties, 27th against lefties. And we know Texas, we've talked about it a million times on this pod, 6th against lefties this year. So they're quite strong there. My only concern here really is that Corey Seager might miss. He came out of the last game injured. I would keep an eye on that situation potentially. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I'm pretty happy to bet the Rangers here. I had them like closer to -125, so quite a difference there for me.
Yeah, no, I'm tailing that one as well. I loved it. And anytime we have Martin Perez on the mound, feel good about betting the Rangers. Another game here, finishing things off, Mo, that we do like a nice pitching edge in the Cardinals and Nats matchup here, as Mikolas is going against Sanchez, Anibal Sanchez, who's still struggling to find any semblance of what he's had in the past this season with I believe in his last 3 starts, an ERA well above 6. Mikolas in the top 20 there. Everything seems to be clicking as well for the Cards, who managed to pull out some wins without their 2 best right-handed hitters, Goldie and Arenado in Toronto, still pulling out some wins with some nice odds that returned us some pretty good juice as well. It just seems like a matchup that's too easy, even at minus 170 or so, depending on where you find it right now for the Cards, a team that's in the top 5 in OPS, top 10 in home runs, and they do have a better pitcher on the mound with an offense that's been clicking even more so over the past couple weeks or so. So I guess really the question is, what should these odds be at if 170 is still really favorable for the Cards in this matchup?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's actually interesting because, yeah, it looks like some steam is coming in on the Nationals, so you can get a better price than I got. So market not agreeing with me there. I had the Cardinals closer to like minus 190 here. So, yeah, I thought they should have been a bigger favorite, but we'll see what happens now, I guess. There was an off-market DraftKings line this morning, but now everything is coming down. Yeah, I think Anibal's only made 2 starts. I thought. But
it's just 2. I thought 3.
Yeah, his fastball velocity tailed off quite a bit, so that's where my concern comes from here. It's 2 fastballs going opposite directions actually. So Anibal, he fired at 91.5 miles per hour in his initial start, which is like, that would have been his best fastball velocity since like 2016. But he was down to 90.2, so huge drop in his second start. I'm kind of thinking it was adrenaline from the first one, just like getting back on the mound for the first time in 2 years. And I'm expecting more so like closer to 90, which is not good. That's closer to his 2020 velocity, which that season he had a 5.52 xERA and an ERA over 6. So I think he needs those extra ticks. And yeah, Michaelis, other way, man, his fastball is trending up to 94.4. That's the best of the season last start. And I really like that. This is the biggest defensive mismatch you can basically find. We know how strong the Cardinals are on D, but I think maybe people might not know Washington has had the worst defense, I believe, by outs above average from StatCast. And it's just not a good pitcher to have behind you right now with Anibal. When you have the worst defense, because Anibal is not getting the baseball by anyone. 21.9% called strike plus whiff. That is atrocious. So that makes me think baseballs are going to be in play. And when baseballs are in play against the Nationals, pretty bad things happen. And also, another thing that has me bearish on the Nationals right now is they're just moving around their lineup construction, and I think they're just not doing it in a good way. Victor Robles back to leading off, and let me tell you, you do not want Victor Robles leading off. They tried this for a couple years. This ain't the way. He doesn't get on base. He doesn't hit for any power. All he has is speed, and just no way he should be leading off for your lineup.
Yeah, and to your point about the trouble Sanchez is going to have, he can't get the balls by anybody. He's certainly not going to be getting it by these Cardinals hitters who strike out some of the least in the league as well. So yeah, plenty of balls in play, and expect that BABIP to keep going up for Anibal Sanchez. So that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we are bringing these videos each and every weekday of this regular season. So until we see you next, happy betting.